Welcome again to the Smart City Talks webinar series. This is the last of a series, and we're focusing on ICT solutions today. My name is Gabi Kaiser, and I work for STARDUST Europa Center, and I'm responsible for dissemination and communication for mySMARTLife, which is one of the projects that will be presented today, or that will present their ICT solutions, to be specific, today. The other three projects are Making City, POCITYF and STARDUST, and I want to make you aware again that we will be recording this session. So moving on to the agenda today. I will give you a short introduction to what we call the Smart City family, which are the Smart Cities and Communities projects, and also about mySMARTLife. Then we will follow with a colleague of mine called Paula. Paula works for the city of Helsinki, and she will present the Helsinki Energy and Climate Atlas. After Paula, we have a colleague from the project Making City, Peter Hutt. Peter works for CGI Netherlands, and he will present the urban data platform for positive energy districts in Groningen. Following up from Peter, we have Johannes and Anka. Both are working in the POCITYF Smart City projects, and they will present a digital platform for the monitoring and planning of urban energy systems. And last but not least, we have our colleague Marit, who works for the city of Tampere. She is in the STARDUST project and will present the Tampere.Finland application. So these are the speakers. I'll start, as I said, with a short intro to the Smart Cities and Communities projects, and also a bit of information about mySMARTLife. So, moving on, the Smart City family, or the Smart City projects. Just to give you an overview, we have until now 18 funded projects. Out of in those 18 projects, there are 48 lighthouse cities, and these are the cities where the interventions, where the demo sites, where all the action is happening. And we're focusing on ICT, mobility, and energy when we talk about smart city projects. Now, 48 lighthouse cities across Europe, and I'll show you a map in a second. In addition to those 48 lighthouse cities, we have fellow cities. And the idea behind it is that those 80 cities are supposed to learn from the lighthouse cities that implement the programs. So there's a learning exchange and program happening between the lighthouse cities and the followers. There's also the effort of developing replication strategies and upscaling the ideas that have been developed in the lighthouse cities. Moving on, let's talk about money. In those 18 projects, there is an overall of plus 420 million euros committed. And then there are, across all 18 projects, right? 430 partners are being involved, and that could be anything from a local authority, like Tampere, Finland, a business, like, for example, Steinbeis, but it also can be universities, academia is involved, startups are involved, and so forth. So 430 partners, and then we have around about 550 pilots or demonstrations, smart city actions that are happening in the lighthouse cities and the fellow cities. When we're moving on, just giving you an overview of the timeline for those 18 projects. On the right-hand side, you can see a timeline like 2014 and 2015. That was the start when the Commission started funding smart city projects. And like when we talk about the first generation projects, these are projects like Grow Smarter, Triangulum, Remo Urban, Sharing City, and so forth. You can see their logo here. You can also Google them and have a look at their websites. Most of them have now finished. So that was basically the first generation of smart city projects. Then over the next 2 years, 2016 to 2017, there were more projects that came on board. And for example, the project that I'm working on, mySMARTLife, was a project that started in 2016, but also STARDUST, which is presented today or represented by Marit later on in the presentations, was started in 2017. Then we're moving on to the last 3 years. There were 5 more projects that came on board until 2019. And in 2020, the last Smart City project started, and that was or is Response. So for today, we're focusing on mySMARTLife, STARDUST, Making City and POCITYF, and not only on those projects, there will only be a very short introduction to the project, but focusing on the ICT solutions that I've just mentioned and the speakers that I had quickly introduced. An overview of the 18 projects. I mean, it's generally a good spread across Europe. So you can see the orange dots on the map in front of you are the 48 lighthouse projects, and the, I don't know, turquoise, bluish one dots or squares are the fellow cities. In general, I think, and that's an important point I would like to make, is these 18 projects don't work in silos. We have a structure that kind of combines us in the sense that each project has a project coordinator and they're working together in a board of coordinators. For each of the projects has different work packages, and these work packages, we then have built task forces where we say, okay, in dissemination and communication, all the dissemination communication leaders of the projects work together. We exchange ideas. We do joint webinars like this one. We also do, like talking about dissemination and communication now, we also do, for example, joint social media campaigns and so forth. So it's this kind of doing things together that is important to us. Now I'm moving on to a bit of information about mySMARTLife. mySMARTLife, I said that before, started in 2016 in December. We have 6 cities involved. The 3 lighthouse cities are Helsinki, Hamburg, and Nantes. And then we have 3 follower cities, Bydgoszcz, Rijeka, and Palencia. Now, an overall of 27 partners are involved. And when I talked about the actions before, we have 150 smart actions in mySMARTLife. That means actions that are focusing on mobility, on energy, and ICT. So these 4 bubbles kind of give you an overview of what we're trying to achieve in mySMARTLife. They're both at the beginning of the project. City challenges were identified and the problems were kind of worked out. Then we looked at how to involve citizens and raise the acceptance. Then there was, now talking about the second bubble, the involvement of key partners and developing the solutions that will resolve the problems. Okay, I'm moving on to the demonstration and the technology bit. There are business models that have been developed, but also piloting projects. And in mySMARTLife, for example, we are now basically at the last stage, which is looking at evaluation, evaluating the performance of the project, and also developing exploitation strategies and replication. So this is kind of a short wrap up of what mySMARTLife is all about. And with this, I think it's now time to move to the kind of other examples that we have gathered for you. And I would like to introduce Paula to you. Paula works for the city of Helsinki. So, and Paula will present the Energy Atlas from Helsinki. So Paula, do you want to share your screen?
Hello, my name is Paula Autio, and I come from the city of Helsinki, from the 3D Plus team, to introduce you to Helsinki Energy and Climate Atlas, which is a service that we have built with our 3D city models. So let's start with some background. So the Energy and Climate Atlas started with the idea that Helsinki needs to be carbon neutral by the year 2035. And the built environment makes up a significant fraction of all the emissions. So there is great emission reduction potential as well. but there are various decision makers, and so this can be a little bit challenging field to try to tackle to eliminate as much emissions as possible. So we wanted to create this free and browser-based service where all of these actors involved, including homeowners, city planners, companies providing energy solutions, and investors can then see this kind of data of the houses that concern them. So this service enables you to look up current energy data of the buildings that you're interested in, but in addition, see if alternative energy solutions would be a good option for you. So including solar energy and geoenergy potential. And then we have simulation results of heat demand, and you can see the effects of energy renovations as well. So I'm just going to go through the aspects of this service. So we're going to start with energy data. This includes, for example, renovation history and real consumption data. In this video, you can see what it looks like. Here I'm in the city center. I'm just clicking on a building, and you can see basic information. Unfortunately, this database is in Finnish, but here I'm highlighting the calculated consumption of this building. And I'm noticing in addition that this is actually a protected building, which is, of course, important information to know if you're planning on a huge renovation in your building. And in this other video, you can see that I'm placing on the map different, the most important heat source of this building. And as we're in the city center of Helsinki, you can see that it's very district heating oriented. But once I zoom out here, you can see that, yes, there are other heating sources as well. And where you can see black, that would be heated with coal. So those would be especially interesting to tackle as soon as possible. Then we're jumping on heat demand, so heat savings and CO2 emissions. Again, with this video, you can see that the entire building stock of Helsinki, again, is modeled. Here I'm just demonstrating the heating demand per square meter, so you can compare the surrounding buildings, also how your house compares. And here we're looking at the effects of climate change to the heating demand of your house, because the climate is obviously changing, so it might increase or decrease the heating demand of your building. So here you can see those effects. And in this next clip, we are seeing the heating saving potential of buildings. So if there's a lot of wasted heat, there's a lot of potential to save it as well. And here I'm just clicking to see the exact simulated results of how much energy could be saved with a heating, with an energy renovation in this specific building. And lastly, we have CO2 emissions per square meter. So you can also check that out citywide or neighborhood-wide. Then we have solar energy potential, so solar irradiation values monthly and yearly. Here's again a video clip for you. So by clicking any surface, you can get additional information of how much radiation it receives. All of the surfaces of the city are modeled, so over 1 million surfaces. And the redder the surface is, the more potential there is to produce solar energy. Then lastly, we have geoenergy potential, so different depth wells from 150 meters to 1,000 meters. And here in this video, you can see the entire city, again, is modeled. And here I'm just using this swipe tool to demonstrate the different values of how the values change when you change the depth of the well. So here, again, zooming onto a neighborhood, and you can see the differences for these two values. This service also includes, for example, information about the bedrock weakness zones and the soil, because those also affect whether geothermal potential is a good option for you or not. And again, by clicking, you can get additional information of the specific amount of energy that can be produced here. Then we are arriving to our last slide. So as this is a free and browser-based service, you can just take this link and go check it out yourself. And also, we are very focused on making our data open. So a lot of the data, including the city models themselves, are open. So following that HRR Helsinki Region InfoShare link, you can also get these data sets to yourself if you want to further investigate their potential. Yes, I will thank you for your attention, and my information is here. So whether if you need additional information or something, you can just email me, and I'm ready for questions.
Thank you very much, Paula. Wonderful. Yeah, it's impressive. So thank you. If anybody has any questions, keep them in mind, or either maybe put them in the chat so we can have a discussion later on. Next up, I'd like to introduce Peter Hutt from CGI Netherlands. Peter is from the project Making City. So Peter, the floor is yours. Hello.
You're just on mute, Peter.
Yep, that's my presentation. Hopefully you see it. Yeah, my name is Peter Hutt. I'm a solution architect at CGI, and we have been working on an urban data platform for the Making City project in Groningen. So first about the Making City project itself. The goal is to demonstrate the positive energy district concept through retrofitting existing buildings, as well as analyzing the energy balance for newer and innovative buildings within the two districts of the city. The activities themselves are retrofitting, like for example, solar panels on the sides of buildings, or adding a heat grid for a district. And we're monitoring several buildings within the district, so not the whole district. And the goal of the monitoring is to determine how effective the different innovative activities are on the different buildings. And I will focus on the Groningen part of the project, but the other lighthouse city is Oulu in Finland. So first about the urban data platform that that we will be using to collect the data we obtain through monitoring. This is the reference architecture we have been using, and it is very much based on all the different projects that Gabi showed us at the start of this presentation. For example, I think mainly the Iris project uses a very similar reference architecture for their smart city project. And in this diagram, you see at the top data market. So there is the location where people can find the open data, the data sets that are available, as well as there is for the more real-time data, there are APIs, in which case you need an API management part of the platform to manage those APIs. And at the bottom of the platform are the more general functionality around data processing and storage of the platforms. Of course, security is very important, and the platform management to manage the platform itself. And at the bottom of this diagram, you see the data sources that we are including, mainly energy or building management systems of buildings that, of course, are collecting already a lot of information about the buildings, as well as charging point management system for EV, electric vehicle charging points, or direct sensor data or external data. So this is the reference architecture we are using for the whole project, including standards that we are using, which is very useful for the integration, of course. And for the Groningen part, we are creating this data platform based on the existing solutions that are already available within the consortium of the Making City project in Groningen. First is the Sustainable Buildings platform. This is a small company in the city of Groningen that is focused on analyzing the energy consumption within buildings and giving advice on how to improve the energy balance of the building. Then we have CGI's Energy Islands platform, which will do all the data analysis and standardization of the data to get standard metrics for all the buildings that are in the project. And then finally, the City of Groningen already has an open data portal, which we will use to publish the open data that we generate, either as separate data sets that can be downloaded or visualized in a map where possible. So these three platforms together will are forming the Groningen Urban Data Platform. And then you have some, like for example, in the middle you see a dashboard to see all the metrics that are stored in the platform. But I want to highlight the TNO-SM use case. SM is a simulator built by TNO in the Netherlands to simulate an entire energy system, and we will be using that to simulate the positive energy district and to actually determine whether this is a positive energy district. They will use the data within the platform, the actual metered energy consumption of the buildings that we are monitoring, and use them in their simulation. But the outcome of those simulations are obviously very interesting. Also, for example, you can run a simulation to a scenario where you apply the interventions we have applied to some of the buildings within districts. When you apply those to all the similar buildings within districts, that can give you very interesting insights in the effectiveness of the interventions. So those that output is part of the data in the data platform, and it can be shared with everybody else as part of the outcome of the project. So as a summary, we have at the bottom collecting telemetry from meters with many different meters in the buildings. We are standardizing those metrics for the buildings within the CGI Energy Islands platform, and then we are using that to get an overview of the whole district using the TNO SM simulator, and also to help us calculate some of the project level indicators that we want to know. If you have any questions, either put them in the chat or see one, or contact me via this email, or if you want more information on the project, visit the website.
Thank you very much, Peter. Lovely. We'll move on to Johannes and Anka now from the POCITYF project.
Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the possibility to take part in the Smart City Talks, and I would like to present you a little bit of the POCITYF project, and especially the Grids Energy City platform, which is from Enesys. Enesys is the company where Anka and I work, and we are a Swiss company, which has also a location in Germany, where Anka and myself are sitting, and also provide the solutions for the POCITYF project. Grids Energy City is a digital platform for the monitoring and planning of urban energy systems, and I'm explaining you how it fits to the project. So POCITYF is also a European project in the Horizon 2020 context, and there are 2 lighthouse cities, Alkmaar and Aurora, and also 6 other fellow cities, which try to identify how the ideas in the projects of Alkmaar and Aurora can also be switched to the several cities after that. And the POCITYF project has around 46 partners, which are from 13 European countries, and the lighthouse cities, they provide a solution to the fellow cities Granada, Bari, Celje, Ulpse, Tuanina, and also Ridofre in several countries. And what our solution or our target is to provide integrated solutions in the lighthouse cities to transform or transport it also to the fellow cities. And I will show you later what kind of solutions that will be. So some facts: we want to provide positive energy blocks. It does mean where energy is also produced, not only consumed. And therefore, we are working on the project for 5 years with a budget of around 22.5 million euros. And integrated solutions are on 4 areas. So one area, for instance, the positive energy buildings and districts. It does mean where we integrate renewable energies. On the other hand side, we have the P2P energy management and storage. So because of the renewable energy integration, we have also some constraints in the grid, and we want to test also the behavior and to sustain it, to have a sustained grid. Then citizen-driven social innovation. It does mean we want to engage the citizens to also be part of the projects in a smart city context. And we want also to integrate e-mobility. It does mean charging infrastructure, but also vehicle-to-grid solutions, etc. And Grids Energy City is one solution out of that, which we are providing for the lighthouse cities, and also want to provide as a test solution as well for the fellow cities, and try to identify how it can support also municipalities and cities. So the emission data of all sectors are available, and we and other companies use this data to create reports and a CO2 balance for municipalities like the lighthouse cities. But this alone will not reduce the emissions, nor will it help you achieve ambitious climate targets. That is why we are making emissions reduction a joint task. And to this, we not only bring all the relevant data on board, but also the relevant stakeholders. It has mean, besides the municipalities or cities, as well, utilities, grid operators, and also businesses, and for sure the citizens itself. Thus create a digital twin of your city, of your region, or your company, the instrument for common understanding so that you can shape the transformation, and that for all sectors. It has mean energy, heat, water, etc. With the building module, you not only have knowledge of all emissions and energy sources, but also plan and simulate decarbonization for one city, one neighborhood, or a single building. From municipal heat planning to the expansion of renewable energies and simulation of the charging infrastructure, the coupling of the energy, heat, and mobility sectors make rapid grid expansion a challenge. 2. The digital twin supports you in making your network structure fit for the future. And now I would like to hand over to Anka, who will show you an example of our digital twin and how it supports a city in Switzerland to reduce the CO2 emissions in the heat sector, which we also want to provide for the lighthouse cities and fellow cities. Anka, it is your stage.
Thank you. I hope you can see my screen.
Yep.
Since we are still at the beginning of the POCITYF project, we're going to show you a showcase from another case from another country which is not within the POCITYF. So here we can see the digital twin of Yverton with focus on the energy thematic. Yverton is a middle-sized city from Switzerland, and we are looking at the building sector. We can identify which are the buildings that still use heating oil for heat generation. For that, we have to choose a heating energy carrier and then filter out the specific energy carrier. Going to close here. And by zooming out, we can identify really fast which is the area with high number of buildings that use this energy carrier. And then we can zoom in to the desired location and select those buildings. In this way, we can identify really fast which would be the potential for a district heating network. As you can see, the primary energy consumption and the heating area that would need to be covered. Currently, we are working on the implementation of simulation of different energy and climate measures. Hence, the users will be able to identify more parameters with the help of the GRIDS platform. Within the POCITYF project, we'll implement an overview of all the measures that are demonstrated in the lighthouse cities Evora and Alkmaar. Additionally, the users will be able to simulate these measures according to their city characteristics and identify the possible effects. The dashboard is another feature that is worth mentioning. The key information is displayed briefly, including a comparison to the city's goals. In this specific, the final energy consumption data, electricity consumption, CO2 equivalent, emissions per capita, and renewables energy share until 2035 and 2050. I'm happy to see that Helsinki has implemented a similar solution. For sure, the need of a digital planning tool is quite high. And in case you are interested to hear more details, do not hesitate to contact us. And in a moment will come. Yes, here are also our contact details. Thank you very much also to Johannes for switching really fast to this slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Johannes and Anka, for your presentation. We're moving on to our last presentation from Germany. We may move all the way up north to the city of Tampere. And I'd like to introduce to you my colleague Marit. She works for the city of Tampere, and she's from the STARDUST project. Hello, Marit.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I will start my presentation. Hopefully the screen is visible.
Yes.
Okay, great. So greetings from Tampere. We are getting ready here for the midsummer celebration, like I think all the Nordic countries are. I will tell you about our city application, which is heavily using the open data, which we have, and engaging people digital ways. I'm a project manager in the STARDUST project. I show a couple of or some information about our project. So like all our sister projects, we have the same objectives, energy efficiency and decrease in the carbon dioxide levels here in the city. And we are making these changes in areas of mobility, buildings, and also the infrastructure, lighting, and etc. We have 3 lighthouse cities in addition to Tampere. There is Pamplona from Spain and Trento from Italy, and then we have also 4 fellow follower cities. And altogether in the consortium there are 30 organizations from 9 different countries, and duration 5 years at the moment, maybe also the extension time. EU funding altogether 18 million. And then to the topic of Tampere Finland application, and we have collected a different range of services in the one place. The application is aimed to city residents, but also tourists can use it. There are a lot of services also for them and other customers in the Tampere area. And it was developed as a part of innovative partnership started in the hackathon. And it has been developed by a company called Keniem. There, the user location data gets collected as an input, and it's used for smart street lighting system. That was our pilot in one area in the city, so that we can give light there where people are moving. And also Tampere Finland application is using the open data, all the APIs available in the city of Tampere. There are data concerning traffic and that kind of thing. And actually this application is now not anymore a pilot, it's owned by the city and it's developed by the city further. And what kind of services there are then? There is a service called Tampere Pass, which offers different kind of benefits for the stores and the services. Then there are services for public transportation. You can see the bus routes and the timetables, and you can then participate and influence via this application. So you can give feedback to the city and also give fault report if you notice something is wrong in the city, and you can just press or give your location. You don't have to like identify the street where you are. You can give the location itself. Then we have a digital library card. We have information about events and attractions, and then we have these way stations there and other happenings inside Tampere. Of course, during this COVID period, there hasn't happened so much, but hopefully in the future there are a lot of things to see and happenings. Here is example of this digital card, so you don't have to carry separate library card. Libraries are very popular here in Finland. And actually, we are now STARDUST has developed this mobility CO2 calculator where you can see how much CO2 pollution you get from moving. So how sustainable, it measures how sustainable ways you are moving, and in case you are moving really green or sustainable way, you get more offers available from this application, so more benefits. And it's changing the color as first it's green when you are moving sustainable. In case you are moving a little bit not so sustainable, it turns yellow and eventually then red, showing that no, not this month you won't get benefits. But what have been then changed with this Tampere Finland application? So like I mentioned, services are centrally featured in a easy to use application way, when previously the information was spread through various websites, for example. And mentioned you no longer must carry a plastic library card with you, a smartphone, you have your library card there. And it has really increased horizontal cooperation across city units. We have been developing it together with different organizations within the city. And now we have a new experimental platform. We can add different APIs for here, and also other projects have been using this application. And like I mentioned, the cooperation is a big part. And the application provides a new kind of information about the movement of people, and it facilitates the planning of better services. We get the information on how people are moving, when people are moving. It's the CO2 calculator automatically identifies the way people are moving. So we get information, for example, the transport planning. And it has increased the use of open interfaces in the city. And it increased the interactions and opportunities for participating between the city and residents. It's really a way to influence. Citizens can give feedback and failure reports when and wherever they are. And it's evolving, like I mentioned, it's constantly evolving. Currently downloaded 85,000 times, 10,000 daily users, and it can also be configured to be used by other cities and APIs from there. And important is that the data is available and no manual updating is needed. So really this is happening with automatically via APIs, and no manual updates are needing. And it has been actually now used by other cities. So there are siblings for Tampere, Finland. So there are two other cities already using it, Siilinjärvi and Joensuu. So basically they don't have to start from the scratch. It's the base is already there, and they can start developing their needed features there. And it's like a collaboration. So cities are together making application more useful in a way, and every city doesn't have to make the same thing, but other cities are developing something and others are something, so we all benefit from this cooperation. That was what I wanted to say. So in case you are interested about this concept, you can contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Marit. Thank you to all the speakers. We'd like to move to the last part of our webinar, which is having a discussion and also opening up the floor for questions. So I know that some people have put questions in the chat. Fernando, can you?
Yeah, we have two questions at the moment.
Okay.
Should I read them aloud?
Yeah, let's start with the questions. Or I mean, if you are the one that has put the question in the chat and you would like to open up the mic and tell us your question, you're also welcome to do that. If not, we will just go through the questions that we have so far.
So maybe I can start.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Katarzyna, and it's directed to Paula. So the first presentation today. And she is wondering, oh, there she is. Would you like to make yourself the question?
We can't hear you,
We cannot hear you.
Oh, okay.
Now we can.
Okay,
Perfect.
hello. It's Katarzyna from City of Bydgoszcz. I wonder how long did you complete data? How long did you collect the data for that atlas? Because it's for me it's amazing job. Yes, that it seems that it's clear information you can obtain. I mean, it's in open data. Yes, open data source. Yes.
Yeah, well, most of it is open, not everything, because there's some GDPR limitations, but a lot of it. It's a good question, and thank you for your kind words. A lot of the data is actually, we've just repurposed it, analyzed it, and simulated it for the atlas, but there isn't that much actual data collection for the purposes of the atlas. It's all data that the city already had, and we just benefited from it. So I would say it has been collected for years, but it's not only specifically for the atlas.
I understand. Thanks.
And then there was a second question made by Dr. Michael Fisher, and well, it is directed to Peter. The question is, he's wondering about the standards. He mentioned that, well, you were discussing this point, the standards that you are using in your platform, and Dr. Michael Fisher wonders which standards are those?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we took a lot of inspiration from all the different other Horizon 2020 projects, smart city projects, and there are a lot of standards covered. The main standard that we chose that fit our project, also with the existing platforms that we wanted to use, was the Sensor Things API standard from the OGC, Open Geospatial Consortium. I'll put a link in the chat. But that one we could fit it onto the data that we needed, and also the data that we have storing in the platforms. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Any more questions in the chat?
Apparently not. Not for the moment.
Okay. I was thinking, since I mean, I'm not an ICT person, but I read the newspaper. So the one thing that came up when I listened to all of your presentations was the issue of data and data protection. So I think that is something that you probably, all of you, deal with, and depending on what country you're in, I mean, there's also a dependency on what country you're living in. But I mean, all being within the EU, I was wondering how you dealt with data and data protection. So if you could maybe just tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, maybe I could start. It's definitely a tricky question, but at least we in Helsinki, we aim at making as much of the data open as possible. But it's always a question of if, for example, a building has not enough inhabitants, then maybe they don't want to enclose the information of a single person house, for example. Yeah. But it's definitely challenging and something that we have to keep in mind.
Okay.
And if I can add, it's often also a topic of aggregating information. It does mean if you have a city and also a lot of buildings, yes, in several countries, for instance, in Switzerland, there's the possibility to go directly on the building level. Germany, maybe not. So it depends on the local laws in that case. But it is possible to also aggregate the information and to fulfill laws.
Okay.
And I can tell from the City of Tampere point of view, as we are talking about location data, it's GDPR related data. So we are definitely, we anonymize the data, so there isn't any GDPR related data anymore. And we are working together with our city security officer so that we do everything by the law and by the book. So we have created the needed documents and all the studies that are needed in order to work with this location data.
Okay, thank you, Marit. Peter?
Yeah, so for us, we've separated so we have several households, several houses within the project that we are monitoring, and we've especially for that we have GDPR agreements with them, and they share the data for the duration of the project, and only the project, and with the consortium like the simulator, the TNO, they share the data with them to do the simulations. But I mentioned the APIs; those only the data is only available via the secured APIs and not part of the open data. Only the aggregated data and the outcomes of the whole district, those ones will be published as open data. So it's a very important aspect for us throughout the monitoring program. Yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Peter. Okay, going back to our beloved audience. Any more questions from the colleagues who are listening? I mean, use the opportunity that you have all those specialists there with a lot of experience. We got any more in the chat, Fernando?
No. We have no more questions for the moment. Of course, well, the speakers have already, in most of the cases at least, made available their own email addresses, and so the audience will be able to contact them and keep on discussing things maybe or interacting.
Okay. Well, then, if there are no more questions, this is the last minute to raise your hand, because if not, I'll wrap this up. And I'll thank my beloved colleagues. Thank you, Fernando, for keeping everything alive and ticking in the background as our technical man. Thank you to Marit. Have a lovely summer all the way up in the north. Thank you to Anka. Thank you, Johannes.
Thank you for having us. Yes.
Thank you, Peter, for joining us from Groningen. Thank you, Paula, all the way in the north. And we'll see you soon. And thank you for taking part in our webinar. We'll put the recording online. You'll find it on the YouTube channel. We'll also post something on social media. And that's it from my side. Goodbye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice summer.
Thank you.